Hi everyone, it's Jared from Beyond Accountancy. Happy New Year. Hope you're enjoying a nice break, or maybe some of you are hanging around at home and sorting out the house. I spent nearly a full week trying to clean out my garage, and it's actually quite a satisfying thing to declutter, throw things away, and just get tidied up so you've got a bit better a workspace for the coming year. So I thought, how can we apply that idea of decluttering at this quiet period of the year to our finances? So I've got a few ideas to share with you today. So how do we start the year with a financial tidy up? Well, here's some suggestions. Firstly, cancel a subscription. If you're like me, you probably have a lot of subscriptions or direct debits or automatic payments coming out of your accounts. If you just grab a bank statement or download a transaction history for the last month in Excel format's the easiest way to do it, and just sort through and find one thing that you're not using. Like you might have multiple streaming subscriptions that you no longer really need or aren't really using. You might have got one just for the school holidays for the kids, and you can cancel now so that by the time February rolls around and you're not watching as much TV, it'll be gone. So that's a good way to save a bit of money. And there's maybe $10 a month, $100 for the year in your pocket that you can spend somewhere else. Close a bank account. It's surprising the number of times when ATO data pops up when I'm doing someone's tax return. They're like, oh, I don't even have an account with UBank anymore or ING or whatever. So maybe you've bought a house and now you've got a mortgage, so you don't need those online savers anymore. Just close them down. There's no point in having them, particularly if you maybe were in a relationship that didn't work out and you had a joint account and you decided, oh, I'll just keep the ING bank account, for example. That's a real risk because then your name's on someone else's transactions and the interest that that account might earn ends up on your tax, which is really awkward and inconvenient. So close down the accounts if you're not using them, particularly the joint ones. Tidy up your shares. So there's a couple of things you can do to tidy up your shares. The main one I find is close down duplicate or multiple share accounts or stockbrokers. If you're going to invest in shares or ETFs, you probably only need one provider. And this is a good chance to sort of consolidate that down to one. So then there's less things for you to manage, less things at tax time. It is hard to spend some time monitoring what you've got. Pick the one that you most enjoy that's got the best app or best interface that's the most convenient to use, and just keep that one and don't have ones all over the place, especially ones with difficult reporting like interactive brokers. Update your tax file number. My clients who have, especially if you've got ETFs, provide your tax file number to each ETF company you're with. That's usually through ComputerShare or Link Market Services. Those who do that find it a lot easier at tax time because the checklist of things they've got to go and download to send to me is a lot shorter, because when you give your TFN, the ATO will then pre-fill that on your tax return for you. It just makes your life a lot easier. And get rid of tiny share parcels. So if you've got a share portfolio and you might have multiple shares, anything less than $1,000 isn't really worth your trouble. Unless you're micro investing, so your whole portfolio is less than 10 or 20 grand, that's different. But if you've got a good amount of shares and you've just got these tiny ones that maybe you got from a spin-off, or maybe they started off as a decent parcel of shares and they've gone badly, here's a good time to get rid of them. So you could sell them, but the other alternative is just to buy more. So you don't want to have less than $2,500 in one share, I don't think. Otherwise, the paperwork isn't really worth the profit. So I would just either, say you had $500 worth, you either buy another 2 grand to get it up to a useful amount, or just sell the $500 parcel and just tidy up your life a bit. I find a lot of people have got shares in Virgin Money UK because they used to own shares in NAB, or shares in South 32 because they were shareholders in BHP. Just shares they've got by accident. The next way to declutter your finances is to combine your super funds. That's a really common one. A lot of people have super funds they no longer need. Maybe they changed jobs and the new boss opened an account, or for whatever reason. The reason why it's advisable to have only one fund is because you're duplicating fees, which is of no advantage to you. You can combine super funds quickly and for free using MyGov. So it's a lot easier than it used to be. There's no certified IDs and paper forms and difficult things like that anymore. If you jump onto the ATO website, it'll show you the steps. Basically, go into MyGov, go into ATO, and go to Super, Manage, Transfer in the menus. Pretty easy to do. One warning though, when you close a super fund, you also close the life insurance that's built into that super fund. So most super funds will offer life insurance, some will offer it by default. And if you close a super fund, you close the insurance with it. So if your current employer is paying into Fund A, but your insurance is in Fund B, then you might need to reconsider combining your funds. In fact, you might just keep Fund B with the insurance in it and just tell work to change where they're putting the money. Or sometimes you keep a second super fund just for the insurance cover. I know quite a few of my self-managed super fund clients do that. It's much easier to get insurance through a public fund, so they keep their public fund for their life insurance and they keep their self-managed fund for their main investments. It's particularly important if you've got an illness or injury, or you might be uninsurable. So you might say, well, I'm going to close the super fund, and then what I'll do is I'll apply for insurance in my new fund, but they might knock you back because you might have had an injury, an illness, something that's come up. So if you do have something, an ongoing condition, just be really careful before you close any super funds. If you're not sure if you have insurance or not, check your latest member statement from the fund that you're thinking about closing. Cool. And the last one, this is decluttering in the household sense and in the financial sense, and that's destroying old tax documents. So we've all got a drawer or maybe a filing cabinet or a box in the shed of old tax stuff, and you don't need to keep those forever. So generally, you only need to keep your tax documents for 5 years, but there are a few exceptions. So firstly, the 5 years starts from when you get your tax assessment, so not from the year that it relates to. So we're in 2024. So you think, okay, -5, I can throw out 2019. But actually, if you lodged your 2019 tax return later in the cycle, the 5 years hasn't come up yet. If you've recently caught up on late tax returns, and I know a lot of you guys know our company because of our late tax specialty, then you need to keep from 5 years from when you lodge. So you might have just done your last 5 years of tax returns, 2018, 19, all the way through to 2023. If that's the case, then you should keep it from 5 years from now, not 5 years from 2018. Well, that would be 6 years anyway. So 5 years from when you lodge. So if you lodge late, it's 5 years from the late lodgement date. And there are some other important exceptions. So if you have a self-managed super fund, the minutes and documentation, like the end of year meeting minutes, the documentation for starting a pension, those sorts of things, you want to keep for 10 years. Anything related to a CGT asset is 5 years after you sell, as longer for capital losses. So CGT assets are like shares, holiday home, rental property. You want to keep everything related to that. For property particularly, it's more challenging. You want to keep the purchase details, the stamp duty, legal fees. You want to keep records of any renovations or any building costs. You want to keep the rates notices, insurance, water, all that sort of stuff. So just anything relating to a property that might have CGT implications down the track, just keep absolutely everything and keep it for 5 years after you sell. If you've made a capital loss on a bad share investment, for example, you need to keep your capital gains tax evidence for 5 years after you use up the loss. So you might make the loss in the current financial year, but you might not get to use that capital loss until you make a profit 10 years from now, and it's 5 years after that. So with CGT stuff, so shares, properties, I just keep everything indefinitely. I think that's the safest approach. If you've got a trust or a super fund or a company, then trust deeds and company constitutions, you should never dispose of those. So that's all for today. Hopefully there's a few tips there that were helpful. And maybe you can go through one or two of those things in these quiet couple of weeks in early January if you've got some spare time, and just declutter your finances and get yourself in a good mindset for the new financial year. or the new calendar year. So I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll hopefully be putting up some more detailed content in the next few weeks, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.